The pandemic has caught everyone by surprise and has thrown our complete life out of gear. The world economy is in chaos right now. We have businesses that are grappling to survive, and SMEs and startups are undoubtedly the worst hit. As per a survey done by NASSCOM on 250 B2C startups, it's been identified that almost 60% of those startups are on the verge of shutting down operations because they have cash reserves that are just about enough to last for about 3 months. Is nature some way forcing us to rethink the ways in which we run our lives and livelihoods? What should business owners typically be doing to emerge stronger out of this situation? To have a discussion around this, we have invited on this show Arjun Sarkar, who's the CEO and Head of Investment Research at Everguard Life Ventures Private Limited. Hi, Arjun.
Hi, Sheetal. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking. A quick introduction about you. Arjun runs an investment management firm called Everguard Life Ventures Private Limited, managing financial assets of high net worth individuals across the globe, including CXOs of large and mid-sized firms. He personally strategizes and structures multi-million dollar portfolios for select ultra high net worth clients and regularly speaks at wealth forums. Before moving to India, he has spent almost a decade in Canada, where he was managing a multi-billion dollar account for a Fortune 500 company. He is an MBA in strategy and finance from University of Toronto, which has consistently been ranked amongst the top 10 colleges in the world for finance. He's successfully leading his investment management firm in the current scenario of extreme economic stress. That's like a very difficult task to do, Arjun. So, yeah. So, anyways, I think this conversation is going to be very, very critical. I'm a small business owner myself, and I understand what kind of challenges this pandemic has posed for all of us. So, help me understand, what are some of the lessons that you think that this pandemic will leave for us, especially speaking with reference to the entrepreneur community, as far as financial management is concerned?
Well, thank you for the kind introduction, Sheetal. And I think the very first question that you posed is a very relevant question. And I would suggest that not only for today, but in terms of financial management, any lessons depend on some core principles which are evergreen. I would bring up three core principles, which I found in my experience are relevant like this, but even more so now in the current scenario, right?
Yeah.
So the first core principle as it relates to financial management is for businesses is cash flow is king, right? Now, I remember from my MBA days, around 15 years back, we had a Professor Rami, who used to take financial management for us. And in every lecture, he used to at least repeat this mantra once, okay, that cash is king. I just changed his mantra by adding another word, that cash flow is the king, right? Because after the 2008 financial crisis, and having run the business for so many years now, I found the teaching was very, very relevant, right? So let me try to explain with a quick analogy. Suppose you are thirsty, right? And you need water, and you are stuck in your house because of COVID, and the water supply is cut off from your house. But the good news is you have within 50 meters of your house or society a reservoir full of water. Problem is not flowing in. So your problem is still not solved. There's ample liquidity, no pun involved. Like you would have heard that the government is spending so much on stimulus package, the banks are flooded with liquidity, so on to speak. But it doesn't do the entrepreneur any good, especially for a small and medium-sized firm,
if he's not able to access it.
If the tap is not there and the water is not flowing in.
Yes, very true.
Right. Water is there, but the water has to flow in. So same with cash flow, right? It is the bloodline. If your cash flow is out of whack, you are in serious trouble.
Deep
If
trouble.
your cash flow is in order, then COVID, war, economic crisis, nothing will matter. Let me tell you, right?
True,
So now at a very fundamental level, everybody understands that cash flow, you have to have positive cash flow. So if on a monthly basis, if the inflow is more than the outflow, you are in a good position, right?
Obviously, yeah.
So that is fundamental, but there are some unique strategies that you can apply to manage your cash flow, which I think we'll get into a little more elaborately. Now, I just wanted to stress on the principles, what you should be focusing. So that's one, cash flow is king. The second one is profit first. So Flipkart, if you remember in 2015, was the darling of investors, right?
True.
They did their first big $1 billion sale in 2015 after they had reported a vanity metric, if I could use that word, called gross merchandise value of $1 billion. They had crossed in 2013-14.
Okay.
All right. So, and this big $1 billion sale was such a success that they actually threw a lavish party. They invited the film actor Akshay Kumar. I'm sure they must have spent crores on it. But if I were to ask you this question, Sheetal, do you think how much profit did they make in that year? If you could just venture a guess.
Well, pretty hard for me to do that, but I'm definitely sure that, they may not have really made much, would they?
Yeah. So first of all, they made nada. They actually had a 2,000 crore loss.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right. And this is Flipkart we are talking about, not a small and medium-sized enterprise by the way they branded themselves. But if you ask me, was the business being run in a good way?
In the right way, yeah.
Or in the right way? I don't think
absolutely
so.
Not.
Based on the principle, profit first. Now, the third principle is the most important principle. The third principle is you have to manage the company finances and personal finances separately.
Okay.
Right. Now, I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, right from people who are drawing in revenues of 1 crore to 100 crores in a year. And let me tell you, 90% of those entrepreneurs and business owners are not following this principle. Fundamentally, why this is important is the entrepreneur or the founder or the founding team, it has invested everything in their business.
In the venture, that's right.
And if they do not get the salary or they do not get the salary, because typically what happens is you would be able to relate to this is when the money comes in, we'll take the income as and when it happens. Or on the worst case side, you do not take the money because there's COVID, right? How can I give myself a salary?
Yes.
I have a business to run.
Correct.
Right? That's the mindset. But I would argue that the entrepreneur or the founding team are the most valuable employees. They've given their time and effort, right? So they should be drawing their money. And what would they do with that money? They will invest it, right? If they get their money and there's an investable service, they'll be investing that money. Again, cash flow from a personal front. And even from a business front, the business is managed properly because you can forecast cash flows well, because you know predictably that how much money is being paid out as salary.
True, very true.
Right?
So moving on to the next question. I think it's somewhere related to what we were just talking about. So hoarding money in current accounts, fearing that businessmen might have expenses to run their business. Do you see that to be a smart move?
So if I understand your question correctly, intuitively you are asking me, should you have a contingency fund or not?
Yes, right? In so many ways. Yeah.
Yeah. So absolutely, you have to have a contingency fund. But the more important question to ask is how much is enough or how much is less, right? Because what happens is on the upside, if you like you use the word hoard, if you hoard too much, suppose you had hoarded by a rule of thumb, let me keep 6 months of expenses as a contingency
in the
fund
account. Yeah.
in the account.
And the worst
COVID
part is, I'm sorry, and the worst part is in
sure.
most of the cases, businesses, they leave it in the current account without investing that money anywhere. Because like, I know that I have personally done this as many times where, you know, we have left the money in the account without touching it because we foresee some expenses happening in the next 3 or 6 months time. So perhaps we could have utilized that money elsewhere, you know, just thinking aloud.
Correct. Yeah, perfect. And what if COVID hadn't happened, right?
Yes.
And if it had happened 3 years later?
Yeah.
And you would have been just putting this in the current account and just sitting like a cash under the mattress. So that is the problem on the upside. If you're trying to hold money. But if you undercalculate, and suppose you had just 1 month or 2 months expenses taken care of, and your customer tap closed, right? So the income stopped flowing, or your business stopped flowing. Then your entire time is trying to make that next pay salary cycle,
that's
right? And your entire focus moves on to managing the finances. Whereas this is the ideal time to be focusing, doubling down, and giving your customers more attention, or grabbing. I won't use the word grabbing, but getting more market share or getting more clients from your competitors, because they are busy focusing on the financial management aspect. But you were so well planned that you are not worried. Everything is taken care of. Contingency fund you have kept, and you are at least know that for the next 6 months I can just focus on my business, and you can work there.
Absolutely.
So to in a nutshell, yes, you have to have a contingency fund, but and you shouldn't be hoarding. You just need to calculate what the right amount.
How much? Yeah, got that. Sure. So, okay, is offering a deferred payment option or reducing or lowering your service charges a good idea to keep the continuity of business? I mean, where this question comes in from is a lot of businesses, you know, I've been reading a lot of articles or, you know, webinars, etc., where it's said that, okay, because everybody is like cash strapped, perhaps one way to make sure that your business continues to thrive is by giving them options like these, which makes it easier for the customers also to sort of pay you and think of not stopping doing business with you.
Okay, so to the first part, offering deferred payments, absolutely you should do it more so in these times. Because then you are building a relationship and you are helping your partners, vendors, clients, whoever you are giving the payment. But having said that, you should choose them wisely. So let me elaborate a bit. So clients, partners who add value to your business, behave like partners with you, and or who are in genuine need of getting that deferred payment because they are struggling, because they've not managed their cash flow better. For them, absolutely yes, because these are the times when people are judging you, even your partners are judging you, how you're treating them, or even the clients, right, how you're helping them. But for big companies, so I'll not take names, but there are some big names, companies there. If they are your clients, they have a lot of cash in the bank. They can get loans easily from the bank. Or them, no.
Okay.
I wouldn't suggest doing it, because they are just leveraging this opportunity for their betterment, right?
Got that. Yeah.
Because they know that you're a small, if you're a small and medium enterprise, they know that your cash position is worse than mine.
Yeah.
Why would I? It works both ways, right? So you are also judging them, that why are they not why are they asking or doing like this with us? So that is one. On the second, you had
please go ahead.
Yeah. So the second question that you said, lowering the service price or
service charges.
Absolutely no. Because what you're doing is you're discounting your own value of the service. That is one. And the more important part is the customers, once they get used to this, they will expect the same from you next time also.
Yes.
They have a very short memory.
Of course.
They have a very short-term memory. You have trained them to ask for discounts if you do that.
Got that. Yeah. I think that makes a logical sense. Yeah. Sure. Thank you. So, entrepreneurs often forget to pay themselves, and especially through situations like these, all the more. Okay. How do you think can entrepreneurs manage their personal finance better?
Okay, this ties back wonderfully to that third principle that I was talking a couple of minutes back,
Yes,
right?
very
That
true.
the first thing you have to do is keep your
To
personal
pay yourself.
finances
Yeah.
separate
Mm-hmm.
from your business finances. Uh, and like I said, one is you'll get the ready flow of income, so
Mm-hmm.
your lifestyle is maintained. And if you have surplus, then you can invest it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm digressing a bit, but now is the time to invest because you make a lot of money in the future if you invest now,
Mm-hmm.
where the markets are currently, right? The market is
Mm-hmm.
doesn't give chances like this. Uh, Probably gives a chance like this once in 7 years or 5 years, right? But if you do not have that investable surplus, can you do? You cannot do anything.
Absolutely.
So you
Yeah.
lost there's an opportunity cost tied with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I was mentioning earlier, on the business side also, uh, because you are so well managed and you can forecast the cash flow that okay, I have budgeted for this cash flow for the salary of the founder, including the staff and everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You can manage what you can measure, right? So
Yeah.
in this case, because it's predictable, you can manage it better. So they just have to apply this principle. They have to keep it separate. You cannot trade, okay, today I have 10 lakhs suddenly come into my bank account. I have been going without 10 lakhs for the last 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go and splurge. It could be even on business, right? Even, but that is not the most efficient use of capital,
I
right?
understand.
You should,
So I just wanted to check with you on this bit, because I agree that entrepreneurs should have a separate a personal finance and separate company finance as well. But we're also talking about organizations which are fairly young. Maybe they're possibly anywhere between 0 to 3 years of existence. Okay, and most
right.
likely they wouldn't have really started making money. So if that be the case, where is the entrepreneur even expected to withdraw money for himself? Because everything that he has, perhaps he would have possibly invested in the organization itself, right?
Right. So I think the first principle here is the planning should have happened even before you started the organization,
Yes, got that.
right? It should have happened before, not after the fact.
Understood. So
Because if you had done it before, the
uh,
finances, if you had planned it before, that
you
I
wouldn't
must
have really
do,
landed yourself in that situation as such.
wouldn't have landed yourself in this
Yes,
situation.
true, very true. Great. So moving on to the next question, how can business owners plan and optimize their cash flow needs, especially at times like these when long-term planning is the last thing on their minds?
Right. I love the word optimize, right? Because typically in
Yeah.
these kind of scenarios, the word being reduced is uh, reduce your costs, right? But sometimes what happens is you reduce your costs and at the same time you reduce your investments also, and which has a long-term impact, a negative impact on your business. So there are three ways you can manage your cash flow really well, right? So first is you optimize all your costs. So how do you do that? So I'll give a personal example. We are lucky that way because we are in financial services. We are not in the hospitality industry. So we were 100% digital from day one.
Okay.
Right. And because of which what happens is I don't have to meet clients. We can obviously have these Zoom calls, so the
Conversations.
investments are taken care of. But even the transaction execution, because the digital infrastructure has improved so much, we can do those transactions because we went online right at front. Those transactions are seamless now. Those are
Okay.
set. The systems are set. So there's no delay. There's no lag of getting the investments. In our case, when they make a decision, the investments come the next day.
Got that. Yeah.
Whether it's 50 lakhs or a crore, it comes the next day. So
Because
there's
it's
no
all
delay.
digitized.
Because,
Yeah. True.
but having said that, in our industry, if you really see, there are a lot of advisors, even wealth management firms, where more than 50% of their business is still offline.
Oh, is that so? Even
And
today?
because, yeah, even today.
Wow. Okay.
And because of which they suffer. So digitalization is one, as much as you can do based on your business, right? It depends on what business, also you are in. So
Of
that
course.
is one. The second thing is for optimizing cost is you should try to convert your fixed cost into variable cost. I'll give a personal example again myself here. My office was before COVID hit was 8 kilometers away from my home.
Got it.
Right. I could have easily taken my car. I never took out my car. I always took an Uber. The reason was the fixed cost was the car. There is a petrol charge, right, which keeps on fluctuating anyways.
Of course.
But there is a fixed charge of there's a maintenance of the car involved. If I'm driving it out every day in the traffic, you know what the traffic situation is these days, right? So maintenance, I have to take care of maintenance. The fixed cost every year I would have to do that, right? Insurance, right? If I have to take another car, if I leave one car to my wife and I get another car, also the insurance I would have had to pay insurance, fixed cost again.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? And oh, by the way, the parking at our office space, because it is in a prime location, is 100 rupees an hour.
100 rupees an hour.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So then I would say 100 rupees. I would make a Uber trip, or maybe 150.
Absolutely.
I would already. So I've converted my fixed cost into a variable cost.
Got that. Yeah.
Right. There are other ways of doing it also, but I'm just introducing you to the principles and your audience to the principles. They can think about what fixed cost in their operation can they convert to variable cost. There are other areas you can reduce. You can reduce the agreements, right? So, for example, rental agreements. Typically, if you sign up for a year, you would get a better discount. Obviously, they'll give you a better discount because they've locked you in. Again, a personal example: we never gave for the full year, and this was way before COVID, right? We planned our cash flows like this only. So we did only quarterly renewals.
Oh, so every quarter you would actually renew the contract, the rent agreement.
Renew.
Okay.
And they also had that option available, so we took them on that. And the advantage of that, what happened was, the quarter ended in March. The lockdown happened in March. After that, we didn't renew our contract. We said that we'll renew our contract.
You really didn't. Of course, when you would want to get back to
manage the cash flow. So manage the cash flow, right? So the cash outflow, that is one. This is one side, optimizing cost. The second side is, can you think of structuring the inflow towards the beginning of the month and outflow towards the end of the month?
Okay.
So let me give you an example. We've tried this also, right? So if I tell my customer, if you pay me in the first week of the month, the invoice amount drops by 10% or 5%. I'm just taking a number.
Taking a number, yeah.
So value to the customer, okay, you are doing for lesser, but I need my payment in the first week. If you want that. Otherwise, you can pay as per the regular terms and conditions.
Okay.
But this is my condition. Majority of them took the offer, right? So you got it in the first week. And with the vendors and the partners, I said, I will definitely pay you by before the 30th of the month. Definitely, 100% I'll pay you 30th of the month. You don't have to follow up, call anything. But can you take the money at the end of the 30th of the month? The moment you say definite and call and you follow up on your promise for the first 2-3 times, they have no problem. Because their biggest problem is collection of money.
Yes.
So what have I done? I've structured my inflow towards the beginning of the month, outflow
and the outflows towards the end of the month.
Another way of managing. Again, maybe some companies cannot do this because of the business. Correct. But I'm just trying to give an idea.
Sure. I think that's helpful. Yeah. Great. So what, as per you, are some of the financial considerations that an aspiring entrepreneur, because I know of a lot of people who were supposed to be launching their businesses or have plans of launching their businesses even now for that matter. So what are some of the financial considerations that an aspiring entrepreneur must have in order to start business in times of COVID?
Okay, this ties into one of the earlier questions you had asked also, right? Where I talked about you should have planned for this before you started.
Yes.
Before. So I'll speak through my experience, the good and the bad, what I've learned when I was starting my journey. The first thing is you have to ensure that your personal standard of living is taken care of. What I mean by that is, you have a family.
Yeah.
You are taking a risk. At least in their mind, you are definitely taking a risk, right? And you have to have at least 3 years. Like, everybody can tailor that to their requirement. I would say at least 3 years. I made sure that we had enough funds available in not fixed deposits, but safe liquid assets where it could cover my standard of living. So when a standard of living, I'm not saying expenses, because expenses, when you say, then you will cringe. Tomorrow you say, oh yeah, we used to go for these foreign vacations. Now I can't go. I'm running my firm, right? You know, we are not taking a salary, and this, how can we go on for? Then there's a problem.
True.
The family is also suffering, and you are also not living the life, because it's 3 years of your life, right? So the standard of living has to be maintained. So, quick example, my daughter, we had promised her much earlier when she was 5, and she has a very good memory. So we had told her that in your 10th birthday, we'll take you to Disneyland, right? And during those years, from 5 to 10, she was watching this Cartoon Network series. A lot of parents would be familiar with, is Nobita. I forget Japanese characters, right?
Sure.
So she wanted to go to Japan also. So we did our research and found out that, and this was during my first 3 years of the thing, that okay, we have to go to Japan. We can go to Japan's Disneyland, and she get to visit Japan also. So both of her wishes are will come true. And Japan is not an expensive, not a cheap trip. Okay, it's pretty expensive. But we had budgeted for that, so allotted. So when the time came, we made the promise good.
Oh my God.
Now, this is on the higher side, but even for general things, like we like to go out for movies every week. Before the pre-COVID, we loved inviting friends over and all. We never stopped doing that during that journey, because it was already budgeted for. Right? Those days. Okay. So this is on your personal side, but you need investments on your business side as well, right? For the next 2 years. So what I would say, one thing I've realized, and everybody told me even before I was starting, and I have realized this even further, that your idea, the original idea, will go through so many iterations and pivots, as they call it in the entrepreneurial world, that the product or service that you think of originally, at the end of 2 years, will look very different, right? So if I know that fact, I would try to start small and finish big. I would test my ideas more often, fail fast, and fail small. So let me give you an example. We started off with a portal, right? Invested in the web hosting, designing of the portal. Even before, we did a lot of research, asked all the clients, did all the good work. But at the end of the day, we found out, after spending so much, and 1 year of time gone, we realized that nobody's signing up. Then we had to spend on Facebook ads, Google ads to get, and then, so there was no market fit. Then we went into another product, which we had a great market fit, but then the regulator stepped in and made it unviable. So we had to shut that. Another year gone. And then the third main pivot, when we moved to the services side and targeting ultra HNI investors and all, that took off. But that took 2 to 3 years, right? And that's where I say that if you have to take care of the first 2 years. Don't go to investors in the first 2 years, these big investors, because you'll be working 24 hours a day.
Got that.
So you'll be working for, you have your own company, but you'll be working for somebody else eventually. And there'll be a lot of pressure, and you will not be able to test your ideas. So the first 2 years you have to give to yourself. So then how do you raise the money? You would typically raise the money, I would suggest, from your family, friends, and your personal savings.
Okay.
You allocate, but because you're starting small and running these inexpensive experiments every 2 years, you don't need that much of money. You don't need 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs. Even if you're building a product, you don't need.
Yeah, but then I think that ties back to what you were saying earlier, that if you know what are you getting into, you should probably start planning well in advance, because otherwise you might just be in for a shock at a later point in time. Knowing fully well that what you had originally started off with is not how it's shaping out to be.
Correct. So the aspiring entrepreneurs, I would focus more here. The ideas will change. Right?
So I think their clear focus has to be on chaos and ambiguity and anticipation of it, actually.
Absolutely. You take it as granted, basically, that this will happen, so I have to plan for it.
Sure.
Correct.
So great. Arjun, I know that you cater to a whole lot of clients and crucial clients. Okay. So, in this time of COVID, how are you possibly, making it as an organization? How are you helping your customers in terms of tiding through the situation?
Okay, brilliant question. We are using, again, 3 ways we are doing it. So the first way we are doing it is our core job as an investment management firm is to make sure that our clients' wealth is being preserved and we are growing it at the same time, right? And the clients do not care whether it is COVID or is there a war situation or is an economical stress or financial stress. They do not care. They've come to you because they want their money to be managed well. Otherwise, they could have done it themselves, right? So that is our first job. So that we are doing, right? Preserving their wealth during these downtimes. And how we are doing it is we planned for this, again, multiple years back. We are prepared for situations like this many years before the event happens. Because after the event happens, then things are not in your control.
Yes, that's true.
Then you will lose money, right? You have to do these things before. So that is one way we are helping our clients by preserving their wealth, which is our core job as well, right? Secondly is we are over communicating with them. So obviously we answer questions when some clients call in and say,
and it must be quite a panic situation for everyone.
And they get hassled, right? Because they're watching news and they are reading Economic Times and they see, and then these are amazing WhatsApp forwards, which people with no experience are forwarding without understanding finances, but it freaks them out. And so you have to calm the nerves, because Sheetal, what I've found in investments is that majority, in fact, research has also shown that 96% of the retail investors don't make money from the investments, even though investments make good returns. The reason is their behavior. The behavior is they get in at the wrong time, get out at the wrong time. They follow the herd mentality, what everybody is doing, who are equally clueless, right? So they follow the herd, and that is why they lose the money. So, and in these times, if you're communicating and you're explaining to them logically why what you're suggesting should be done, then they are calm. There's an assurance. They need that assurance, right? So you have to over communicate in these days. That's what we are doing, so that they're calm. And then the third thing, which ties to a first principle again, is flexibility to clients. Now, a lot of our clients are doctors and dentists. Now, we all know what happened to them in the initial stages. Their income stream immediately stopped, like the meter stopped, right? Now, these customers or clients had these monthly investments going with our firm, right? And in some cases, over $1 lakh per month, which is a decent sum during these times, right? So we've helped them pause and stop those SIPs. We didn't give logic that, no, even though we told them that this is the implication that if you do not stop now, this is the best time to be investing. But we understand that the cash flow is an issue. So till the things become smoothen out a bit and you are again comfortable with the cash flow situation, you should start again. And that also we are doing digitally.
Okay.
So otherwise it wouldn't have been done if we were tried to do it on a paper route, because nobody was allowed to step out. Or so we did the digital thing, so we could do that. So those are the 3 ways which we are helping our clients. So first is giving them peace of mind by preserving and growing their wealth. Second is over communicating, so calming the nerves, so that they don't take a rash decision by following the herd. And third, giving them the flexibility with their cash flows after explaining them what the investment
the implications. Yeah, got that. Great. I think this has been quite an interesting conversation, and especially as a business owner myself, I could quite relate to it. I'm sure people might have questions, or there could be people who might want to reach out to you. I'll definitely make sure that your contact details are there in the show notes for it to, for it to become more accessible to the audience who's watching this show right now.
Absolutely, and thank you for inviting me over to for this conversation. I really enjoy these conversations, and I hope, sincerely hope that your audience takes away something and they can implement some of the ideas that we discussed. Thank you so much, Sheetal.
Thank you. Thank you
Have a
so
good
much.
day
You
and stay
too.
safe.
Bye
Bye.
bye.